Afternoon, everybody. We, as American descendant of slavery, have a reconditioning. There's a new thing going on, and it's a reconditioning. As a descendant of slavery, American DOS. And I'm talking about that here on my channel. When you come by here, you get to hear that. This is what you're going to have to hear coming by this channel. And this is real talk. It's going to be real talk. It's going to be everything political exchange. And I'm not necessarily against the president of the United States. I know that he's a white man. I know that he has some racism, racist behavior. Of course, that's what the country was built from. Let's look at the bigger picture. See, a lot of people talk in a downtrodden manner. And they talk about races, oh, this person racist, that's racist. The country was built from race. The society has allowed it. The rule of law enforced it and emboldened the idea of race. So this is something bigger than you. It's something you can access according to your group in terms of what the society has allowed and have normalized and made legal and non-legal in terms of that. So race is not only an issue among the community, it is a element of the United States of America. That's what it is. The word race came from the fact of slavery, which is the biggest sin in the most broader perspective. And how can you, as a matter of fact, how can you dishonor the biggest sin or the sin of America's original sin? How can you dishonor that first and foremost as we talk about reparations? And then honor everyone else's history in terms of what has happened to them in humane exchange. How can you do that? There's a reason for that. And one of the reasons is, I believe, throughout my assessment, historically, and even not only historically, even now, the people that meant for us to be in subservitude as slaves and descendants of slavery. I'm a descendant of slavery on both sides of my family. They meant for us to be in subservitude, not only physically, but emotionally and mentally, intellectually. And that's not the case. We have the intellect and a dialogue of a very progressive people when we're activated in that area. And there's an inferiority of people who are descendants of slave traders and who are constituents of slave traders. That meant for us to be a people of subservitude and even 3/4 of human. As a matter of fact, that's just how disgusting, that's just how dishonorable that action has been. To put someone in an institution of subservitude and slavery. That's how dishonored it is. So what happens with that is when the people that you have put in captivity and tried to put them as an underling to you, what happens to that is they don't actually stay there. Their intellects, their imagination, their conversation don't stay there. So you become, disdain. You become inferior yourself, that you wrote a people wrong. You wrote a people into something that they are not. You wrote a people into that they were less intelligent. You made laws for them for illegal to learn. So what you did is try to form an inferiority among a group. In a lot of ways, it did execute because of fear tactics. Fear tactics that you use of killings, lynchings, rapes, whatever you had to do to take away the integrity of a slave, the dignity of a group of people in order for them to be what you wanted them to be, and take away their religion, their culture, whatever they know to empower them as a group. Was all taken away for various reasons. And that's one of the major reasons was wealth, to exchange in wealth. A slave was to make money. Slavery was an institution that wanted to bring wealth to a nation. We have been the bones and the guts of that. And we have been mentally colonized in order to reign, in order to be in that space of service and free labor of servitude in the United States government. sanctioned slavery. And slavery was an institution that surrounded many wars and many things among people. And we ate the failure of it. And right now, we have found a newfound freedom due to the fact that slavery was abolished and we were getting laws in effect due to that. But however, when it was abolished, we were supposed to access the land of our captivity on an equal playing field, the United States of America. That didn't happen. We were supposed to get the 40 acres and the mule. That didn't happen. And a lot of people want to talk about, 40 acres and a mule. That was a long ago. Well, do you know how much 40 acres and a mule is that you denied somebody? And that I think the presidents came after, I don't know if it was Roosevelt, one of the presidents, I looked that up, that came along and did not honor the Constitution in terms of the descendants of slavery, and in terms of the freed slaves. So therefore, you left a people in dire situation and disenfranchisement up against a power source, up against a power source of their abuse, up against their abusers, economically and financially, and yet we still prevail. Yet we're still here. So we obviously have to be a strong people, and yes, we are the best scholars throughout the global diaspora. So what that creates is an inferiority with you. You're inferior to us because you're afraid for us to access an equal playing field in the society which we were forced to lay out. Hard work, free labor. And one of the major sins that I think people look at is that the United States government, the politicians, the constitutional right was not honored in favor of the slave descendants. It was written, but it wasn't honored. We didn't have an exchange on it. So the slaves were never given what they were worth. Every man is supposed to be paid for his wages. That did not happen for my ancestors and me as a descendant. So I don't get to say that I'm able to exchange a community wealth in a community team sport, an opportunity in terms of having an element of choice throughout a society that has capital, exchanging in capital, people patronizing each other's businesses, partnership. I get to work for those groups as a descendant of slavery, even with education. It's very highly unlikely for me to own any company. We don't own any banks. We don't exchange in business camaraderie on the levels which groups do in America because we don't have any power sector in this country. So we don't get to exchange on those levels. There's no reason why we shouldn't have it due to who we are. Every other group has been treated with a success due to who they are and how they suffered historically and what they were doing. Every other group. The Indians were forced off their land. They start pillaging them. They use barbaric elements, and they are remembered in that space. They have incentives, political incentives from the government. They're considered to be an important people. You come and you take over people's land. That's a beautiful land, and you build it. You colonize, and they are safe. They're taken care of. You may call them $5 Indians, but they have reparations. Even the Japanese that was in concentration camps. You got even the Jews with the Holocaust exchanging the reparations. And the Holocaust happened in Germany. But the way the laws are set up and who they are is negotiated among politicians in the political arena, how they should be compensated due to what's happened to them. Well, what you going to do about the people that was forced to lay out this country? Blood sacrifice. Guts and blood and bones hanging from trees. Fear tactics used among them in order to bring a wealth to a nation. And you have not given us political incentives. What? Affirmative actions, whatever political incentive that has been given to us because we were people that never executed the space of equal playing field, we could still devalued. So everybody else get to enjoy our little bit of political incentives that were given to us. Everyone else get to kumbaya on it because they come from poor countries. And they get to come in my house and have meals, and I get to be forced in a corner in a subservient manner and eat maybe a bag of potato chips, while they sit around and have meals in my home, in the house that I built. Blood sacrifice, and my ancestors were killed in mass numbers to do it. Fear tactics. And other people come and sit at the table and dine among wealth, among royalty in the first world nation, and then start using the laws that were put in place for the people that were harmed historically in its original sin, and that's slavery. This is what has happened to us. And so that's unhealthy for me not to have a nutritional diet at the table of opportunity. And because I have no capital, I can access no capital. That's in my diet, my business camaraderie, my exchange. Because what happens when you do that to a person and you leave them in disenfranchisement up against generational wealth according to their sufferings, among sufferings, what happens to people is now they can be exploited, and we have been exploited, and you're exploiting us now. A nation, a society of rich men exchanged among wealth, a community sport. So when we do become a rich people, or whatever expertise or whatever that we can do, we can also become exploited, because we 9 times out of 10, 8 out of 10, we become degenerates because we're made by wealth. We don't have the element of choice solely of our own in that segment, in that sector. You see, the Jews run Hollywood. You see, the other groups come in and they build in communities, and they start running gas stations and subways and businesses on corners, mainly in the black community. And then they become super capital and in capital. And then they start exchanging and being respected in the business camaraderie among other groups. That has not happened for the descendants of slavery. It was never allowed. And every time we pushed for it, we got dealt with in militant force. Our leaders were assassinated. The laws were implemented. So therefore, it never happened. Now, therefore, we can be exploited, just like a pimp and a whore. If somebody don't have what they need, you can insert drugs in their community. They'll sell that. And they'll try to make some money off that, and they'll go up the prison pipeline, which was written for them, and their downfall. And they'll smoke it and use it because they're poor people. And they want to have a good time, and they think this is a good time, and it's actually exploiting them, and now they're drug addicts. And they're not going to pay attention to politicians and be political and methodical about anything because they're downtrodden people and they're animals. That's the nature of what's been shoved upon us in terms of community, in these ghettos and hoods and different things. And politicians are denying and acting like you're not there. They have normalized, Democratic Party has normalized the benign and neglect policy, which should never be allowed. They normalized it. It's normalized. And now we here to recondition. Oh, wake up. You're shocked. You're shocked that we're here. This time, this is a new day. 2019. We're talking about it. It's getting exposed. Eli comments what you done to Baltimore, because they are people that are patronizing the powers that be. They're patronizing a power source. It has nothing to do with their own people. And this is what happened to a people that you leave without something. You can't get around that. If we go to the amusement park and it's $20 to get in, and everybody got their fare, and this other group only got $5, they can't eat less than they get in. They can't drink water less than they get in. They can't do anything less than they get in. This is an example of what slavery and economic slavery is like. What's happened to us right now. Other groups get to say, well, if you do this work for me right now, I'll give you $5. And then another person say, well, I'll give you $5 more if you do this. And then everybody get $20 and then we can get in. Which everybody else already inside enjoying it. But now we built it. We built the amusement park that I'm talking about, but we can't get in. And once we get in, we didn't have a $20. We didn't have no money to get in with. So once we got in, now we got to go to work for everything that's in there that we built in order to get on, enjoy it. The other groups, they were allowed to come in and they're exchanging. And these booths that are in there, this is an example. And they run on all this stuff and they own this stuff. They get to build and save their money. They get to exchange in business. And then they get to catapult in business. They become Local capital, then super capital. And that's what I mean by these gas stations on the corner and subways. These other groups are changing in um that type of business camaraderie. They're exchanging in local capital. So local capital is exchanging among a people that was forced in subservitude. That's local capital amongst a people that are descendants of slaves, that come from people that were slaves. So they're exchanging, but on each corner, other groups. And so the wealth of America is in the hands of the slave trader descendant. The real wealth, the land, the fields, the orange fields, the egg farms, the things that were supposed to be given to us, the freed slave, also to access this country on an equal playing field. It never happened. It never happened. So you left a group of people in dire situation, disenfranchisement. And now they can be exploited. And they can be told, oh, well, look at Jay-Z. He did it. Look at this person. They got out the gate. Well, first of all, there shouldn't be a gate. Not to the people that built this country. Not to the people that are real Americans, that are part of this society. It's like like when you go to church or anywhere else, everybody's a part of it, right? There shouldn't be a gate against the people that's locked in the society. We are Americans, descendants of slaves, but we have not accessed America in the way America really exists. We serve America, free labor, and now we serve it according to its wealth, according to what we have, according to its position, how it's positioned. We, right now, no matter what we have, education or whatever, we're actually working for people that have capital, that are owning these places. We don't own any power sector in this country. We don't own any banks. And we already know what goes on in those areas, and other groups are exchanging. And I believe that's only because it's an inferiority of you inferior to us as a people. You don't want to say that these people are human beings. They are a people of dialogue and intellect that's sophisticated. They are inventors. We invented so much. Patents were stolen from us. We are very important people. We're the most important group in this country, historically, and it's not our fault. You did it. We were brought here because we can withstand the sunlight, so we worked the fields. The cotton gin was the most valuable thing throughout the global diaspora financially. In the United States, cotton gin produced so much wealth. And nobody gave any honor to that, and no political incentive to the descendants of slavery, so that we can have the element of choice inside a first world nation. My children are educated. We're educated people. They go around, they do things, and they get in the community, they try to get involved. But it's harder. They don't have no access to capital. We don't have any access to that. My cousin is a politician. My first cousin is a mayor, the first black mayor in the community. And they took 75% of her pay because they didn't like it. You see, I'm going into personal matter, but yet I want to just say that a little bit. I mean, I got all that stuff in my family. I was born of progressives. Police officers. We have a few little owners in our family owning things. We know about not accessing capital, yet and still. You see, so therefore we are degenerates. That people that are out there that are us in Hollywood, those people are become degenerates. A lot of them. They're not going to exchange among their community in a real way because they're considered safe. Now, your children out there, as slaves trader descendants, your children are safe. and your children's children, and other groups who have accessed these things, even East Indians. They out there, they play I think racquetball or cricket, and they're out there among my community, and they're playing that. And their fathers and dads, they own UPS storefronts, Amazon, partner with Amazon. These people are in medical school. They're engineers. They're working in corporate. They're working in IT because they have a business camaraderie. That is a community sport among wealth. It's not because they're smarter. They have the opportunity and they're partnering with the powers that be and exchanging with people that were slave traders. They're exchanging with groups that have forced us into servitude existence economically and business wise. Now that we're in another form of slavery. But revolutionaries are speaking about this, and we're supposed to take a notion to it. So reparations is deserved to us. You tell me I don't deserve my government incentive or due to how I was anchored inside of society, devalued, in a huge disadvantage, and continue you reign wealth in other groups. These people are owning companies that over our heads and stuff, and there's no law to protect the descendant of slavery in America, where we had brutal exchange. Yes, we sunk Kamala Harris' battleship, and we're going to sink Joe Biden's. And anybody else that come out with a sideways talking point when it comes down to who we are and our political value and reparations. This is not a game we playing. Cut the check.